Hi there, everybody. Welcome to the True Claims Podcast, brought to you by the Davis Law Group. My name is Eric Johnson. The guy sitting next to me is Chris Davis. And Chris, this is our 10th and final episode this year for 2025. We've done 9 previous to this, 9 fascinating cases that we've broken down, a total of $27 million in settlements with those cases combined. Talk to me about a little bit, if you would, the idea of this podcast and what service you think it served.
Yeah, so, my team came up with the idea to talk about cases and educate people on what happens in a typical case, the laws and what the attorneys are looking at and so forth. And it's been hugely popular. Lots of people comment on them. I've had my friends and family also enjoy them. Even the occasional troll that leaves some funny
Everyone
comment.
has an opinion, don't they?
Yeah, everybody has an opinion, and it's all been good, and I've had a blast doing this with you.
Well, I will tell you, I have learned something every minute of each one of these podcasts. I think it's fascinating what we've done. We've taken, in case people are just joining us for the first time, we've taken a case every time, broken it down, so that we can understand the way the law works, the way the attorneys work, how a settlement is reached. And let's just briefly go through some of the cases we've talked about this year as we prepare to go into our second season of the True Claims Podcast. The first episode we did was the Skagit River collapse, which is such a massive case that everyone was aware of. I mean, that had to be one of the biggest cases you've been a part of.
Yeah, it definitely was one of the biggest and one of the more complicated because it involved deciding who was at fault, whether the state was at fault, the Canadian trucking company that caused the collapse, why the bridge collapsed, and just the attention that the case garnered. So it was a very interesting case, and I think we did a very good job for our clients in that one.
And in just recent months now, we had the White River Bridge, and then we had the Cle-Elum on-ramp on I-90, exit 80, was knocked down. Both cases involved vehicles, trucks, with massive loads that exceeded the height limit, crashing into these bridges. I mean, 2 of those back-to-back. That's sort of what happened with the Skagit River Bridge itself when it fell. I mean, this is something that people need to be aware of.
Yeah, and these bridge strike cases, they're fairly alarming, I think, to the public, to me as a motorist as well. So, we're seeing more incidences involving when trucks that are too high impacting a spot on the bridge that is a single point failure, and just a single strike can cause the complete failure of that particular bridge.
The second episode we covered was that pit bull attack with the delivery driver, and there was video involved, and I'll never forget seeing that and trying to imagine what it must have been like to be this guy. He's delivering some stuff, attacked by pit bulls, barely got away with his life, right?
Right. He was attacked by 4 pit bulls that had quietly surrounded him and then charged at once. And he's lucky to be alive. He'll tell you that the first thing. He's still struggling emotionally with what happened. And if there's a warning to the public, it would be, if you come onto a property or approach a property, especially one that's fenced, is to look for those dangerous dog signs. The one that the homeowner put up in this case was completely obscured by a full bush in front of the fence. So my client was not able to see it at all, which was one of the significant factors of winning that case in particular.
$875,000 went to that.
Yeah, and that was all of the insurance that was available. I thought the claim was worth many millions more, but that's all of the insurance we could collect.
There were comments. People go on, they watch the podcast, they make comments underneath, and one of the comments we saw that struck us was someone said, hey, if you want to start banning dogs that bite, you got to start with Chihuahuas because they bite more often than pit bulls. Your reaction to that?
Well, a Chihuahua cannot take down a full-grown man. A pit bull can.
Yeah.
A pit bull can actually kill a man on the spot fairly quickly given its size and strength. A Chihuahua cannot.
One other person said that they were bit on the job while working, but didn't receive anything. What would your advice be to someone who has an encounter like these with a dog?
So dog owners, most of them do not have insurance, right? So the person was bitten on the job. I think the dog owner didn't have insurance, didn't own a home, therefore did not have homeowners insurance. Homeowners insurance is the policy that typically will pay out on a dog bite claim.
We had the tragic case that involved a man driving with his parents in Kirkland. A bus driver blows through a red light, smashes into the car headlong. The man's parents are both killed in that accident. You won that case, won a settlement for that family. The total was confidential, but that's one I would imagine that as an attorney sticks with you, a case like that.
Yeah, and that was a very, very sad case. The adult son survived. And so being in a car crash when both parents are killed instantly in that crash, it's a sad tragedy. And in that particular case, I remember the bus company tried to argue brake failure.
Right.
So we had to spend thousands of dollars on mechanical experts to inspect the bus, and fortunately they did not find any evidence of brake failure, and we were able to settle that case for a very, very high amount.
As an attorney, do you try to distance yourself from the emotional aspect of these kinds of tragic stories, or do you use that to fuel what it is you're doing?
So both. Mostly, though, I have to remain detached because my job as the lawyer is to look at the case objectively and give good advice to my clients. I can't do that if I become overly emotional. When we're trying a case in court, that's a little bit different. There are some moments in trial, depending on who's testifying, depending on the subject matter, where I can get emotional. If I, for instance, feel that I've caught a witness lying, I might show some anger, some righteousness, right? If I'm giving a closing argument in a sad case involving the death of a family member, I might show some sadness in that particular case. I'm human, right? So yes, I do get emotional at certain times, but I try to remain as objective as I can for the benefit of my clients.
We had a similar way of looking at things as a newscaster. That's right. You can't let your emotions take over, or else you're not getting the right information
exactly.
out. Episode 4 was this case. A driver is drunk. Leaves a bar. The bar overserved this man in Yelm, gets in his vehicle and kills a motorcyclist. I think there was a $2.25 million recovery that you guys got for that family. This was a complicated one because, you could say, well, the bar overserved him, but that's not who you went after.
Yeah, we went after the driver that caused the intoxicated driver that caused the collision. And in that case, which is unusual, that driver had over a couple of $1 million in insurance. In that case, the family did not want us to pursue the bar, which we believe there was evidence to show that the bar overserved the driver. But the family did not want to pursue it. They felt that the $2.25 million was sufficient, and they didn't want to go through the stress of a trial.
And this is fascinating to me. People just don't know what they don't know. So someone wrote in the comment section underneath that particular episode, where they said, oh, you're going after the money but not the justice. You should have gone after the bar. They don't know. What they didn't know is that the family requested that you not. You're not going to go against the wishes of the family in a situation like that.
Yeah, the client's interests and wishes are always the priority, right? And if we just went after the money, we'd have sued the bar owner immediately, which we didn't do.
Episode 5, this one I know is sort of close to your heart, the Schwartz case, a $10 million recovery for a bicyclist, riding down a pathway, and there was one of those bollards, one of those big cement deals that they stick in the middle of a pathway. That person crashed into it and was severely injured.
Yeah, that was a case that is close to my heart. It took us over 6 years to resolve, including a trip to the Court of Appeals and a trip to the Supreme Court, which we won at both levels. That was also a case that taught me that when it comes to cyclists and cyclist crashes involving dangerous conditions of the scene, it's very easy for certain objects to blend in with the background or their surrounding environment. And so you look at the photos and you can clearly see that bollard and think, well, the guy just wasn't paying attention. No, I trucked in a high-paid lighting expert from Indiana, the best in the country, and he was able to replicate the conditions of the sun, the rain, the cloud, where he captured on video how it lost contrast and blended in. And so that was the most important piece of evidence in that case to convince the county, I think, to pay $10 million.
Fascinating the lengths you'll go to set up that exact condition, right?
Yeah, I mean, most people looked at the case and thought to themselves, how did he miss it? I looked at the case and thought, why did he hit it? There must be a reason, right? I took my client's side because he was a very careful cyclist. He had cycled thousands of miles over the previous 10 to 15 years. I believed him. He said he couldn't see it, and so I went to the experts to find out why.
That case got a lot of attention, a lot of comments, pro and con, and some of them blame the cyclists.
Yeah.
Your reaction to that?
Everybody has an opinion. It's easy to spout off from the sidelines, easy to be an armchair quarterback, so to speak. If they really got into the case and they found out that the county had violated safety standards, engineering principles, their own safety standards, I think it puts a different light on it.
Episode 6, this one was maddening. I remember being furious just hearing you detail the situation of this case. A guy driving a work truck gets drunk, is hammered, kills a man. You got an $8 million settlement for that man. But the thing that was maddening about this is that this man had a history of not just being drunk, but also of driving drunk on the job. Right. And he was still allowed to drive a work truck.
Yeah, it's a very sad case as well. We found out that the driver employee had a history of alcoholism and had been caught drinking on the job and had gone to rehab at least 1, maybe 2 times. And I'm very sympathetic to people that have alcohol and substance abuse problems. But in this particular case, his employer knew about the problem, yet still decided to give him access to his own company truck. And so in that case, we ended up suing several LLCs because the employer had different shell companies. And it was very difficult to prove which LLC or which corporation owned who and what insurance coverage applied to which LLC. Thankfully, we were able to clean it up and get our clients $8 million, which I thought was a fair result.
A lot of work going on in the background, right?
Yeah.
Episode 7 was the pedestrian struck by a cyclist. So many of these cases that you deal with are cyclists struck by vehicles. This was a pedestrian struck by a cyclist, and you got a $4.5 million settlement.
Yeah, in that particular case, the incident happened on a recreation trail, and our client was walking in an area that pedestrians frequented. And we were able to download the data of the cyclist's GPS to show that he was actually going over 20 miles an hour about a half a mile earlier. The speed limit on that trail was 15 miles per hour. And in this case, the cyclist had, we were able to get a personal contribution from the cyclist, a couple extra $100,000, which is very, very rare. What also is rare is that the cyclist had over $4 million in insurance. That's also very rare. But those fortunate circumstances were able to benefit our client, no question.
Man, and I guess the takeaway here is, yes, cyclists need to be aware of vehicles. They also need to be aware of pedestrians who may be on the same path.
Absolutely, especially on the recreational trails where you've got both pedestrians and cyclists. Everybody needs to pay attention at all times.
Episode 8 was all about video and the use of video. I've been fascinated to learn from you over this past year just how valuable these videotapes are to solve these cases. This is a person hit by a delivery vehicle. This woman had both of her legs broken. The driver fled the scene, took off, and by use of video, you're able to prove who it was, that they actually are the ones that hit her.
Yeah, what is very fortunate in that case is that we were hired very soon after the incident, and we were able to get the video from, I believe it was the city. People have to understand the videos are not kept forever. Oftentimes they're destroyed after 30, 60, 90 days. So if you're in a serious crash or an incident and you're in an area where there might be a video, you should hire counsel immediately so that they can immediately comb the area and find out what surveillance videos exist. If you wait more than a few months, oftentimes that makes the difference of losing very important pieces of evidence.
So much more video than there used to be. I'll bet 20 years ago it was rare when you would find some video of a given situation. And now you seem to think that you were told me earlier that it happens all the time.
Yeah, much more often. In fact, we have on a handful of cases been contacted by witnesses who actually took out their cell phone and either videotaped, what happened or the aftermath. And so that's been very helpful as well.
Episode 9 was fascinating. It was a guy riding his bike. He's going 27 miles an hour on a bike lane. There's an intersection. Someone had come, the city had come in Sammamish and put in a new curb right where he would be entering the other side of the bicycle lane. He hits that, is severely injured, and you were able to get a big settlement for him.
Yeah, what was very interesting about that case is the city had installed the curb in violation of its own engineering and safety standards, as well as the national safety and engineering standards that apply for that type of roadway. And, our client had just been through the area a few weeks earlier, and it wasn't there. Right. So we were able to prove quite strongly that the city was 100% at fault for that one.
And I remember looking at that photo and saying to myself, you would have no reason to expect that there would be a curb right there, right?
Yeah. And, one of the things they were required to do was to mark it either with paint, reflective paint, and or signs.
Seems obvious, right?
Yeah. None of that existed.
All right. So we're going to do this again in 2026. Shall we do it? Shall we do another podcast year? I think this has been a lot of fun. I have learned, as I've mentioned, so much. What do you think people are getting from these podcasts?
Well, I think most people don't know what goes on behind the scenes and how lawyers work up cases. They don't know, for instance, how seriously injured, how catastrophic, how sad many of these cases are. I think people can learn from the facts of the cases that we've gone over to help them stay safer and become aware of certain dangers, like cyclists and pedestrians on trails and in the street, always keeping an eye out. I think, though, it's also caught the human interest angle. Hearing some of these tragic stories and learning what happens to our clients and how they carry that for the rest of their lives is very impactful. And it gives me, meaning in what I do. I mean, lots of people say, well, you just do it for the money. Well, the money is nice, as I'm sure it was nice when you were working for Como TV. But what really gives it meaning is the impact that we're able to have on our clients and their family members. And that makes all the difference.
Absolutely. Well, I know moving forward into the next year of these podcasts, we're going to try to answer more questions from people out there that, have their own situations or have their own questions about the laws and how they work or how you work. So we'll try to do that, shall we?
I'm game.
And
yes.
We'll do it again.
All right.
All right. It's been a lot of fun. I have learned so much. We hope you have too. That's going to wrap up our final episode of the True Claims Podcast for 2025. We'll see you in 2026. Eric Johnson here. I spent the last 30 years reporting on what you need to know, and now I've got something I think everyone could use. The Washington Accident Book Series offers a free legal guidebook on everything from car crashes to dog bites, so that you know what to expect after any kind of accident. Know your rights and how to avoid common mistakes after an accident by getting your free copy at WashingtonAccidentBooks.com.